Previously on ThyGap podcast.
All right.
Alright.
That's right.
What about India?
You know I come from a theatre background, right? It's a little like long history. Where we went wrong, I really can't pinpoint.
Abhishek Upmanyu, Sumit Anand,
Biswa,
Kanan,
Jose Kovac,
Naveen Joseph, S.A. Arvind.
Danish Seth.
It also takes an empty head to make more noise.
So now that you're all refreshed with what has happened at part 1, I want to start off by quoting one of the greats, Mr. Lakshmikant Rao, who was a retired police officer. Just a second. He said, "The water is falling in our house." It's a very emotional quote, guys. And from that quote, I also want to say that at ThyGap, we don't bother to look back. So whatever is it that you want to ask about part 1, all we suggest is listen to part 1. So here is to the part 2 of ThyGap podcast about humor. This is me being brute, and with me is the absolutely useless
Bogus Noog.
Bogus Nook. That's right, guys. You guess the name right. You get no prize. Now get lost. Hey, Bogus Nook, what's up?
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the second episode or the second part of Humour.
All right. So just catching up on some more things, just to remind your otherwise weak memory, you can follow us on Instagram at _ ThyGap. Then you can go on to Twitter and just follow us at ThyGap. And obviously, you gotta like us on Facebook with the ThyGap page. What do you say, Bogus? Ain't that right?
Alright.
That's right. The energy levels are off the roof because this is part 2.
Yay.
So, Bogus, we are into part 2 now.
Quite a deep dive we did in part 1
Yes,
on humor.
Absolutely.
And just taking it from there, continuing from that point. What about India? What about our own great country? If you had to give like a context for the history of humor in Indian culture, how would you describe that?
It's funny that you asked that question, Bogus, because I was actually thinking about it. What an irony.
What
that-
a coincidence.
So, okay, coming back to the serious part of the question.
Right.
So, you know I come from a theatre background, right?
Yeah. You
Right.
keep
That's
saying
like
that.
a plug-in to that I'm an actor who can be hired by any of your aspiring directors.
Mhm.
Hasya, the Sanskrit word for humor, is actually an integral part of Navarasas. So the whole art of theatrics or performing arts, according to our Vedic scriptures, right, is it's a little like long history,
Right.
So they bracket all the emotions. They say that the base emotions are 9.
Okay.
Right? And every other emotion basically drills down to these 9 emotions. Right? Now, I'm not going to go deep into 9 emotions, but one of the very prominent emotion is hasya, which is depicted or which is explained as a derivative of love.
Interesting.
Which is, I know, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, it also goes into psychology of humans in general, right? You basically are saying that, hey, we have 9 emotions, 9 base emotions,
Right.
and everything is a mix and match of.
And you have toppings.
Yeah, you have toppings, you have
All
like
kinds of stuff to
extra
add on
sauce,
Yeah.
extra dressing,
Sides.
and wines and drinks and all that crap. But basically, there is this rishi who basically wrote these Navarasas, who written down this Navarasas in a form of document.
Right.
Is Rishi Bharata. I apologize.
Okay.
So Rishi Bharata, long back, sat down and for some weird reason said that, hey, let me decode what goes into acting or dancing or whatever. And it's very prominent in all the other art form or dance forms in India, right?
Right.
Like Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali.
Yeah.
They all are basically, one or the other form of like depicting these emotions.
Right.
So the funny thing, I'm going straight to the point now. The funny thing, how Bharata, this Rishi who wrote this, explains hasya, which is humor or which is lightheartedness or whatever, is that he says that this is a derivative of the emotion of love. Okay.
Okay.
To which Sanskrit, what's the Sanskrit term to that? I don't know. I have to check. I have to cheat basically. But that's a funny thing because we were talking about it, saying that where does humor come from?
Oh yeah, I mean, in the previous, in part one, we related humor to be something as simple and as complicated at the same time, like love. So that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You refer to love.
Yeah.
And I was referring to trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is the highest form of trust? You can say faith, but I think faith again denotes to a superlative of affection and love. Like you have faith in God.
Right.
And you also love God. It's a very colloquial sentence, right? Usage of love and faith.
Yeah.
Right? But somewhere what I feel, and this is done, by the way, this scripture was written in 500 BC. That's how old Navarasas are.
I mean, yeah, all of our stuff goes
way back. Yeah, Indians were jobless from the beginning. All we worried about was writing syllabus for the next generation. Claps, guys, claps. That's a fantastic joke. Do you consider it dark humor, Bogus? Is it up to your...
As an Indian, it pissed me off when you said that. So yeah, I consider it dark humor for sure.
Awesome. Just don't boycott me midway, okay?
No, you're cancelled. The next episode is just me.
It's just you and your loneliness.
That's it.
No, but isn't it interesting?
Of course, yeah. Keep going.
500 BC and this guy jots down a complex scenario or a complex emotion like love and humor and and karuna. Karuna is basically, empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
And how free do you have to be to like figure these things out, right?
Yeah. Or just curious. And this has been known as a land of seekers.
Right.
What do? If you're all seekers, basically everyone's doing a PhD on one thing or the other.
You hardly have a syllabus to study.
Yeah. It's just, I'm picking this, I'm interested in this, I'm going to now make this into a...
Right. It's like I'm
whole
jobless.
Thing.
I'm going to create my own job.
Yeah.
Right. And few people went into math and discovered zero.
And then a few other people looked at the stars and translated that.
Right. So coming back to the Hasya bit.
Yeah.
Right. Now this is where it gets interesting. We had this concept of humor from days bygone, right? Even probably before the contemporary culture has come in. Now my question is, where did it go? Or where was this used? One, we understand that it was used in dance forms, right?
Okay.
Different dance art. Bharatanatyam again, which is essentially storytelling, or Kuchipudi or Kathakali, is all storytelling, right? And okay, another thing I want to tell is just to give you a picture. These definitions were written in the form of poems,
right,
and verses, which is the style of that time, I guess. Everything was written as a poem.
Yeah.
Even our Mahabharata and Ramayana were not proses; they were basically written in poems, right? So poems were enacted in the form of dance. It's like lyrics to a song, which even continues, right?
Yeah.
So dance form had hasya. Now try to like perceive that. Imagine like a bunch of people sitting and looking at a girl dance or a person dance, and you're laughing at it.
Right.
Right? Because they're trying to convey hasya to you.
Because she's that bad.
Yeah, because maybe she's that bad.
She sucks.
Yeah, she sucks, man.
Yeah.
And you're just laughing at her plight that, dude, she can't get her act together. It's like a failed stand-up, right?
Hopeless.
Yeah. But where do you think... Okay, guess where is the next... How did it evolve? What is the next evolution of this? Just give it a wild guess.
My wildest guess would be where comedy merged with tragedy in terms of understanding, where maybe those two were looked at
No.
as
You're going
different
into the
things.
subject of it.
Okay.
I'm talking about conveying humor. I'm still talking about the communication channel,
Okay.
right? Like, where do you think from dance form?
Right.
Where do you think that it evolved?
Theater, drama.
Can you be more specific?
The Ras Leelas, or what do they call them?
Ramleelas.
Not Ramlila. Ramlila is specifically Ram's epic.
Yeah.
So, but they used to do these funny skits or something, right?
Right. Even before that, there's a step that, which actually it evolved into,
Okay.
which in turn actually paved the path to theater,
And what
which
was
is
that?
miming.
Okay.
So even back then, there were no sketches written. There's no prose format,
Right.
right? So how it evolved was into mime.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're miming a poem, which is close to dancing also, right? Because even in dancing, you don't have you don't have verbal outlet.
Mime itself is a dance.
Yeah,
I mean,
dance
have you seen
itself
those
is a
French
mime.
guys
Yes,
with the face makeup?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is so fluid. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so
Annoying.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to walk down the streets, enjoy Eiffel Tower, and there's
Yeah.
this guy
This
miming
weird
on your
painted
face.
guy wants to do something.
Yeah,
It's like, what's
yeah.
going on?
It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But the same thing used to happen in Ayodhya back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
If Ayodhya was like a tourist spot, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But people used to mime. They used to do street performance,
Right.
right? And because language was a huge barrier back then, it was not so prominent because people from across the world used to come.
Mm-hmm.
So it went into miming,
Okay.
which later on converted into theater.
Mm-hmm.
It evolved into theater. And what was their base for doing theater was still this prose or this poem, sorry.
Okay.
Right? Now, it's there that we started. Now, why I'm saying this is like the history of humor
Right.
was so integral to India, right? In the culture of India, that it started there, 500 BC back. Can
Yeah.
you imagine what the world was at 500 BC?
I think humor as it is, if you compare it with a civilization or a society, when you can ask a question, when is there scope for something like humor to come about? And in my mind, there are two scenarios. One is where that civilization or society has peaked enough to have some culture comforts, where there is some comfort zone, there is some wealth that comes in, and then you focus more on the arts. Because otherwise, until then, you're just surviving, you're just in a war, all these real life issues that you're reacting to. There's no scope for humor there. Or the second aspect is exactly when there is turmoil and when there is adversity, that is where, as a coping mechanism, humor could come in. But it's a different kind of humor we're talking about in both these situations.
Yeah, I'm we are again going back to the question as to where humor is coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we're trying now to juxtapose that against
Put it in a context.
in India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it
our
in
history.
a context, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So now this is an interesting thing. We quite don't know how the person who wrote Navarasas or who depicted a Navarasas, we don't know what was his reference.
Oh.
Right?
I mean, we are a country with unknown references. We don't really know the source of.
Shankaracharya said,
so many
everything
things.
is like a freaking illusion.
Yeah.
Right? So why it becomes all the more intriguing, right, is if he has derived it from love.
Okay.
If all he says is it's a derivative of love. Now, if he's derived it out of love, is there a connection? I mean, in a practical sense, if somebody has a crush on you, they say that they'll hasi to fasi.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's because women tend to go behind humor a lot. They really respond to.
Whatever the science
Wit.
is to that.
Yeah.
Right? We still quite are unaware how that provokes the acceptability of humor.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
Uh-huh.
My whole question, the big question, the elephant in the room for me is, what makes me acceptable? What makes my jokes acceptable? Because you crack that's kryptonite, right? You just go into any random room and you instantly are accepted by people.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes so complex. That's where it becomes so tricky to understand, or why we are talking as to where does humor come from.
Right.
But the Navarasas only throw some light to the point of it comes from love,
Right.
which means that you have to be. And what does love do to you? If I have to break it down, it makes you vulnerable to the person who you love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now you expand that vulnerability across.
It also gives you strength.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, there are multiple other implications, but we are just trying to connect it to humor. So if I expand my vulnerability to everybody,
Right.
right, will that help me, one, love everybody so that there is a certain untold permission that I can make fun of them, or I can put across my humorous thoughts and get a response.
I think I see it from the other side, like from their perspective. When you're vulnerable in front of them, they see that as a show of trust and they want to reciprocate that. And they're reciprocating it by accepting you or, laughing at your jokes or just going along with you, basically. I mean, you could crack a joke and they could immediately put you down like, yeah, I'm not in the mood for that. Like, please
Right.
shut the fuck
Right.
up or something like that.
Right.
Instead, they get into it and they're enjoying, they're having a good
Yeah, be a
time.
part of that conversation.
Be a part of it. Yeah.
True. Now, this is again directed to what you asked, right?
Okay.
That is history of how does humor fit in India, or where does humor come in India?
Yeah.
I feel we lost the track somewhere.
I mean, we lost tracks for everything because
it
it happens when you're that old of a civilization. You lose connections.
or you're just neutralized to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way I can explain that is you speak Hyderabadi to a Hyderabadi guy.
Yeah.
He'll not laugh at everything that you say.
Exactly.
But you speak Hyderabadi to any other city, like you speak to a Delhi guy in Hyderabad, he starts laughing. Kaun sa Hindi hai? Kya Hindi hai?
Yeah.
But for us, it's like, this is how Hindi is spoken. Like, I don't know other forms of Hindi.
Yeah.
So I think as a country, we got neutralized, or as a society, we got neutralized to the fact that these were all the things that we used to laugh about. And now we are looking at it from a different view, right? And somehow I also feel that over the course of time, we just lost touch of all the literature which taught us what these things are, what we were supposed to be connected to.
I get what you're saying. I agree with it in the sense that even I had this observation, which is somehow we are back to slapstick. And slapstick usually tends to be like the starting phase.
It's like the level 1.
Yeah, like the level 1, although it is funny in and of itself.
Right.
But still, if someone is getting into humor, they usually start with slapstick. You don't usually start with satire, or you don't usually start with sarcasm, for example.
If I have to bucket it into one type of humor, anybody starts off with one, like you said, slapstick, which is more organic.
Yeah.
You just find it funny, you do it, and
Or
slapstick.
impressions.
Right. It's predominantly observational comedy. Like, yeah, auntie is like this, or that uncle walks like this.
Yeah.
And it's always like how somebody speaks, or how somebody drinks tea, or starts his bike, or it's very small day-to-day things, right? So imagine, like, I agree with you that as a society,
Right.
as a group, we are all come back to square one.
Yeah, we've come back to...
We are finding things funnier. Hey, Gujaratis are like that, or South Indian. The thing that I hate most about, I don't hate it, but hate is a strong word. I despise.
Oh, it's so mild. Okay.
About the contemporary stand-ups is leveraging that.
Yeah.
I'm a Telugu Brahmin, and you know what happens in my house? Everybody is afraid. Everybody thinks that I'm not an engineer. Okay, what stereotyping is good, but isn't it like there are gazillion Brahmins who are still leveraging that? I mean, you can observe much better.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I also despise, as you put it, mildly.
It's a very mild word.
It's very mild.
Yeah. Conveys very little.
Is that I know that there are multiple things going behind that. One is if the society is at a certain place where we're back to slapstick, that's fine. And if there are some comics that leverage that slapstick, as you said, if that particular comic is also at the same stage along with the society, then I say fair play. Okay, so the medium is going to evolve. The audience is going to be more discerning, and the comics are going to evolve along with the audience's tastes.
Right.
But we do know for a fact that there are a bunch of them who take it for granted, who have a mindset that this is what people will laugh at and this is the only thing that people will laugh at, and so I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah. It's like you're turning the apple card like at the beginning itself.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's like you're doing market survey kind of thing to your art form, which is not how it should be done.
And that is happening.
I look at it. Sorry, go ahead. That is happening.
That is happening because there is a huge disconnect to what kind of a funny society or what's our take on humor as a culture or as a society. Why I say that is there is this whole thing of Hasya Kavi. Have you heard of it? We studied in school, right?
Yeah.
Hasya Kavi is basically stand-up of like 5 BC or 200 BC or whatever, right? These are the guys who used to perform to kings. And I know for a fact that you are a huge fan of Telugu literature and you are into Tenali Ramakrishna and the stories of them.
I know those words. That's how much I am into.
Modesty doesn't go well with you, Bogus.
No, I'm not. Honestly,
you just want to show off.
I don't know much. But what I was saying before we segue into this, that tendency where you think that, oh, this is all the people know and this is all they are laughing at now, so I'm going to cater to that. I'm just going to give them that because this is what they will laugh at. I think that is insulting
to the art form.
To the audience also.
Yeah.
You're insulting their intelligence because you don't know.
And I know where it comes from.
Where does it come from?
Bollywood.
I mean, not only that, but...
I think it has a huge... this thing. I mean, come on. There was a time where you appreciated movies like, say, Anand or Kalapatar and etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
I mean, these are quality movies. And even recently, say, Andaz Apna Apna for an example.
Which was an accident.
It's total accident.
Yeah.
Forget what happened behind the curtains. The output, Rajkumar Santoshi killed it.
Brilliant, yeah.
Hera Fairy.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I know I'm talking comical stuff, but what I'm trying to show is... I just want to
call out though, by the time we get to Hera Fairy, there is already degradation.
No, that's what I'm trying to point out. These were... Andaz Apna Apna flopped in theaters.
Yeah.
During its first release. Hera Fairy didn't do well. It started earning a lot more during its TV rights and all that. Swadesh as a movie, now I'm basically trying to cover the content. Swadesh as a movie never did well.
Right.
It tanked.
Right.
This kind of shows where the preferences have started changing.
Yeah.
Right? Like imagine a Angur.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine a Chupke Chupke.
Oh yeah.
Padosan. They were quality and they were hits. And I know I shouldn't talk about Ahana Pellanta, right?
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't talk about the money that they bought in, but unfortunately that's the only scale how I can identify how much people appreciate a certain comedy.
At that point of time.
At any point of time, even today. Why isn't a Sanjay Mishra a superstar? Johnny Liver, for the matter of fact.
No, I say at that point of time because some movies become cult hits later on. That's why.
Oh, okay. That way, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So box office response is what you're saying.
Right. Box office response unfortunately became a yardstick to identify what is an accepted content and what is not.
Yeah.
Where we went wrong, I really can't pinpoint. I really can't pinpoint if we went wrong with Dilwale Dulhania. I can't pinpoint if we went wrong with a Salman Khan movie or which movie or whatever. Because Salman Khan was a part of the best comedy movie in the history of Bollywood. Right. Andaz Apna Apna, and he killed it. Yeah. I love Salman Khan in that whole movie. The way playing a dumb guy is not easy.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that has a huge influence of we going back to the basics in understanding comedy, which is forcing the performers to cater to that basic need. Is what I feel.
Yeah, and when we say that we are back to slapstick, what we actually mean by that is because, for example, my earliest observation about the humor that we got to see from our literature, our mythologies, etc., it seemed to be very wisdom based.
Oh, okay.
There's always like a truth. If it is a simple truth like Panchatantra, or it is a very complicated, sophisticated kind of truth that you find in I mean, I don't know
The
how.
obvious irony.
Yeah, I don't know
they show
how.
it.
I don't know how people may take this, but there are some parts of Bhagavad Gita that actually could classify as comedy because
Mahabharata, Ramayana. I mean, even the mythologies.
anything that really puts you in your place
Yeah,
as a human being and
Yeah.
shows you how minuscule, how powerless, or what is your actual role or scope in the whole thing. There's something funny about that.
the magic word is vulnerable. If it makes you vulnerable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think it's a sacred emotion of
Yeah.
laughing, right? It's not just the guy who's telling the joke, but the person who's laughing for it also becomes vulnerable because somebody is going to always be like, "You laugh for that?
yeah,
Are you kidding me? That's what you laugh for? What's your IQ, dude?" And you're like, it was just the way he said it, or
yeah.
it's no, I relate it with some other thing.
Yeah.
There's a justification. Nobody ever just stops that conversation. Like, dude, it's funny. Fuck it. I'm going to laugh for it.
That's it.
Right? And I get the point. It's a very valid point that you made. That back in the day, it always kind of had wisdom
Yeah.
attached to.
It was very sophisticated. It was very
It had everything. It had philosophy, spirituality.
and being told in the simplest way possible.
Yeah.
But if you try to think about the meaning behind it, then you realize, oh fuck, how much did they pack into this shit?
You know who was notorious for that?
Who?
Ghalib.
Okay.
Ghalib, apparently, there is a school of thought which says Ghalib is probably the closest personification of God in human form, purely on the basis of his wisdom and his understanding of the world or whatever, right?
Right.
And if you read Ghalib's stories, as deep and his life was a mess, dude. His wife left him. He became a drug addict or like became a drunkard, lost all his property, his money, everything, barring the respect that he's the best, Shairi or Qawwali guy ever.
Okay.
Right? And yet, so I'll tell you how simple his humor was. He's basically having nasha in a masjid. And the Maulana comes and says like, are you not ashamed that in the presence of God, you're doing such a sinful act? And Ghalib is like, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave. And then he comes back and like, by the way, I just want to ask, is there a place where God is not there so that I can go and do nasha?
Oh yeah, it's so similar with Guru Nanak's response where he asked the guy to just keep moving his feet because some guy took offense saying that your feet are directly pointing towards a holy spot or something. So he asked him to move his feet.
Right.
And the minute he moves his feet, there's some holy spot that pops up.
Right.
That's the story. And you can see that as a clever response. Like it's a quip.
Correct.
You're outsmarting someone.
Right.
Even the story of Mahabali and the Vaman Avatar. It's like, what do you want? 3 pieces of land.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I need. 3 pieces of land. Okay, cool. I'm a great king. 3 pieces of land. Here you go. Okay, first piece is the entire globe.
Yeah.
Second piece is the entire sky. And the third piece, where do I put?
Put it on my head.
Put it on my head.
Yeah.
If that is funny.
Yeah, I agree.
Because just the unexpected turn that took.
The surprise element.
The surprise element, yeah.
And that's what humor is, right? Humor necessarily doesn't mean, like you mentioned, it's not about laughing your ass off. And all these LOLs, LAMFO.
It's not only.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like a magnitude of it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there is always a superlative for everything. Like, how much do you love somebody? Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
To the moon and back. Same way, how much can you laugh? Like, a lot. Okay,
a lot.
What's like a ceiling for it? You don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
There is giggle laughs, which is like Charlie Chaplin or
Which you
Laurel and
remember.
Hardy.
There are times where you don't laugh, but you remember it's a very funny thing.
Yeah. So,
Like, I'll tell you the funniest thing that I remember from my school. I'm sorry, am I cutting you off?
I was just going to say,
It's okay because you deserve it.
Fuck.
In my school, there was a guy, like one of the guys you mentioned, who just doesn't know he's funny, but he's very funny.
Right.
So there's a guy who sits in front of me in my bench, like middle row, last bench, and last but one bench is where he sits. And he sits in the middle, and the other guys who sit beside him are huge. These are 6-footers, about 100 kilos each.
Okay.
Out of nowhere, in the middle of the class, he dances for the song Bardash Nahi Kar Sakta Main Dil Mein. He just
Right.
sings that song and he wobbles himself so hard that these guys to fall off the bench.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't laugh. Like we would be like, dude, this guy is up for some act. But then I still remember that as one of the funniest things that somebody can think of in the middle of a class.
After all these years, you still remember
I
it.
still remember that.
Yeah.
And it's a vivid memory. It's not like it's a passing, oh, something was there. No, I just remember like it so clearly. That and what is funny in that, there is this puny guy who's basically making two huge guys fall off the bench
Right.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the sight.
Slapstick.
It's slapstick.
Yeah.
And which I feel is the highest form of humor again. Like, I mean, it has everything that it had the right context. It had the right kind of, he had the right kind of body language, because the best part is this. Once he does that, he used to sit as if nothing happened.
Okay.
So it was like a killer punchline, right?
Right.
He would just sit like normally and say like, so the class is going on.
Yeah.
But these guys are like staring at these guys, and that is the image that I have in my head, right?
Yeah.
They're on the ground and staring at him and like, dude, what the fuck just happened? And he's not even bothered to respond, because it's like, I didn't even exist here when this happened.
Yeah.
I just came here and you guys are on the floor. That's the kind of expression he used to give.
Completely deadpan.
Absolutely deadpan. So those are the kind of things that, you would not probably make you laugh a lot, but they're funny nevertheless. They're very humorous. They come from a humorous spot.
Yeah, I mean, slapstick has this tendency to make you laugh till your belly hurts. And you can't ignore that. That has to be like the highest form. Even though we say now it's come back to slapstick, what we mean is it's come back to bad slapstick. In slapstick also there are levels.
Yeah.
And it's, again, it takes someone really smart to, again, act dumb and make that look funny.
Yeah.
Make that really funny to people. The other kind, like I was saying, was the kind that doesn't really make you belly laugh or giggle, but it just makes you laugh inside your head, like, aha, that was intelligent. Or that was,
exactly.
That was smart. That was so clever.
And you know what also happens, and it happened with me a lot of times. I don't laugh because I don't want to appreciate the other guy's intelligence.
I mean, that's
but
the
inside my head,
competitiveness.
it's the competitiveness, right?
Yeah.
It's like the stand-up syndrome or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the humorous guy syndrome. Whenever I find somebody super funny, right? I'm like, dude, fuck, this is a fucking hilarious joke. And then I'm like, okay, how do I get back to him?
Right.
And he's not even competing with me. Neither am I competing. It's just like he's a guy in the room.
Yeah.
Or he's a person in the room.
He just triggered
me. Yeah. It's just like, okay, now it's, dude, this is a competition, man. And I'm going to make sure the 9 people laughed for your joke are going to now laugh for me, including you. That makes you 10 of them.
Right.
So I win.
Right.
So suddenly there is this thing comes. But you can't avoid the fact that he was funny. Right?
He was funny.
He was fucking funny. So...
And if he laughs at your joke, then he wins.
Yeah, he basically has a bigger heart. And there is no win. There's no winning scenario from there, right?
Yeah.
So, I think what you say is very true. We don't come from a point of wisdom. I think humor has lost its charm in its own sense. And nothing against the guys who are stand-up right now, right? I don't have any problem, or neither am anybody to judge who they are. Only thing is...
I have some problems.
No, you have a lot more problems. You need shock treatments, according to me.
Yeah.
But still,
some of them do too.
I'm a Karuna guy, bro. I am empathetic. I let you go.
Did you say you're a Corona guy?
I'm a Karuna guy.
Because
Karuna.
I don't believe that. But yeah.
Okay. Bogus Nook 1, Being Brute 0. I'll make a note of that.
Again, it's a competition.
It's triggered. It's triggered, bro.
But yeah, the stand-ups right now, I do have a few bones to pick with those guys. Some of them are comedians by name only. Everything you do, it's not really directly comedy. Some of you are not funny, you don't realize it. Okay. Some of you, you're more activists than you're comedians. Okay. There are some of you that give us traffic updates about Borivali and Bandra. Okay. Educational.
They give infrastructure updates also. There's a metro being built here.
Yeah.
And then there is this.
Yeah.
No, but I personally don't have any bones to pick. I think every person has his own style of being funny.
There's hardly 2 or 3 right now that are actually
Who's your favorite?
good. I don't want to take names.
No, come on, take names.
Okay, to take names, I would say interesting people.
So easy.
So that's all it needed.
Yeah, that's all it needed.
That's all it
Ask
needed.
it second time.
Now, because it's a positive thing, then I'm okay with that. So, interesting people for me. subjective again. It's not really objective.
These are contemporary stand-ups, or are you
Contemporary.
talking about Indian
No.
comics?
Contemporary stand-ups. Interesting for me right now. I find I would put Abhishek Upmanyu in that. Sumit Anand.
Oh, I love Sumit Anand.
Sumit Anand is definitely interesting. And I like Kanan when he prepares.
Kanan Gill.
Yeah. Like when he prepares and when he does a prepared kind of set, I think the way he thinks and he puts that effort into constructing a flow or whatever. Case in point, his previous special, which was well constructed. So I think he's interesting. And in general, funny people, I find Naveen Joseph interesting.
Naveen Joseph. Oh,
Yeah.
The Corona song guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Okay. Interesting pick.
He's
I
also
like
a good-
Sumit Anand.
He's also a good actor.
Yes. I think Naveen Joseph.
Naveen Joseph.
Sorry, Naveen, for not knowing your second name. But Naveen, we are like on first name basis.
Absolutely. No.
Right? He doesn't know me.
Yeah.
How does it even matter?
Yeah.
Naveen, I think, is a great performer.
Oh, S.A. Arvind. I mentioned. S.A. Arvind also I like.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. We gotta do that. We gotta push our guys from down south.
No, it's not really a South thing. Because
No, it
Sumit
is,
Anand-
guys. Bogus is extremely.
Abhishek Upmanyu and Sumit Anand both Delhi guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What's your point? oh, you don't want to. You're
overall,
not pushing.
I'm not
okay.
pushing a South agenda
Okay,
or
no.
something.
No, Arvind Essay is really good. I like Arvind. I like Arvind Essay's delivery. What I really am impressed is how fast he does it. I think he's the fastest delivery in India right now.
He engages the audience really well.
Right.
And that's
And he has a very middle class uncle kind of a body language. Right? He's like, he keeps moving so fast and all.
yeah.
But no, yes, Arvind Essay is really good. I like Sumit Anand a lot.
Sumit Anand, why? Because of his lazy delivery. And it betrays the amount of I don't know if in real life he does put that much thought into it, but it does betray some amount of I would say ponderance. That it's not something that he just, the way he says it is as if he just woke up and that's the first thing came to his head. But
Yeah.
they are thought out. There is stuff happening in the background.
It's like he's very effortless.
He makes it look
yeah,
like
it makes,
at least. I
obviously,
think so.
but it is smart. It is, one of the things that is very good about him is there are very smart jokes that he tells. Not saying that other people are not smart.
Yeah.
But I like Sumit Anand's smartness. Let me put it this way. He kind of resonates with me. Abhishek Upmanyu, yes, but not the last few ones. The first 2 or 3 sets that he sent.
I mean, once they show it, you can say that it's there and they can get back to it.
But that is what, okay, Biswa had it. Okay?
Yeah.
And now I don't see Biswa having it. I don't know if it happens to a lot of stand-ups, but or maybe my expectations towards Biswa has increased or whatever.
Yeah.
But I saw Biswa having it from the word go. And this is from pretentious movies. It's not even like from a stand-up bit. But since pretentious movies, I thought Biswa had that.
So just to clarify, I think what we are talking about is the difference between some comics who go behind observational humor, which is, okay, that's one kind of comedy. That's perfectly fair. But there are comedic bits that are nothing but blog posts. They're just like, मैं यहाँ गया, ये वैसे हुआ, and I got into an Uber.
Like
now
vlogs.
I'm going to put up a post about it. But is it linked to something really, some other concept in the background? Like what I would like to see personally, it's very subjective, is where comics tackle the difficult topics. Show me how you tackle death. Show me how you tackle depression. Show me how you tackle...
Okay, but don't you think it's a little unfair because it's a very subjective
it is unfair.
place, right?
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Because ask me who are my picks.
Who?
Oh, thanks for asking me. My favorite as of today in the contemporary lot are 2 people and who I feel are up and above these guys' levels.
Okay.
They're not conventional stand-ups, okay? They're just humorous people according to me.
That's cheating.
No, it's not cheating.
We're talking about stand-ups.
I asked you who are the funniest guys who you think in the contemporary and you gave me your choices.
I was sticking with stand-ups, by the way, for the record. Okay, go ahead.
Jose Cobaco,
Oh, yes.
number 1.
Of course.
Danish Sate, number 2.
I don't
I
agree
love-
with that. But I agree with Jose. Yeah.
Yeah, Danish Seth for me is a very good performer.
Mm-hmm.
He has that ability of knowing what will make people laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a very uncanny ability because he looks like a guy who can do it on the go, and I like those kind of guys, like Jose Cavaco, right? He doesn't do anything extravagant. If you see, he picks on very small things, very simple things. One of the best joke that he cracked is he was doing this unboxing video for OnePlus 3.
I know.
And he said the front camera performs really well. It got 20 out of 25 in Hindi.
Yeah.
This was the joke.
It is absurd humor.
It's absurd, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of humor that appeals to me.
Of course, yeah.
And a lot, and both Danish Seth and Jose Cavaco do a similar kind of humor, right? Which is absurd humor. They are both so different. Yeah. Jose is very lazy. He comes across as like, okay, I don't have energy to do this kind of, but he kills it.
Mm-hmm.
Danish comes in with this so much of yedo, what's happening? Oh, what are you doing? And all.
Yeah.
And still very funny.
Yeah.
So for me, these two are one of the best comics. In stand-ups, I really like Sumit.
Mm-hmm.
Sumit Anand, I think I second with you in everything that you said. He has all that ingredients to make you like him and make you laugh for him.
Right.
And he knows that. He looks like a guy who knows that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Abhishek Upamanyu, I feel, is like Sumit Anand light.
Okay.
You know? Maybe it's because of the delivery that they both have. I don't know. Naveen Joseph is another guy who I really like. Right? Naveen Joseph, I think, is a very good performer. Comes very different to all these guys.
He has his own place.
He has his own place.
Yeah.
He managed it really well. He didn't get influenced by anything. He looks very raw every time he comes on, right?
Yeah.
Anything he does. So, I don't know why I didn't even start this. But, now to think about, these are my picks.
Yeah, usually it's my policy not really to take any names, but fuck it.
Fuck it, yeah. Who listens to us?
Yeah. But, yeah, overall, the difference I see between a Danish Seth and Jose Cavaco is that between the two of them, Danish Seth is the potential mainstream guy. If there's between two of them, if there's one guy who's going to go viral or who's going to get a lot of people watching him, it's more Danish because of his exuberant performance aspect.
Right.
Which, in a very cynical way, if I look at it, which is not fair to him, of course, but I'm going to still go ahead and do it. In a very cynical way, it is a convincing act. Like people who are just watching it, right? When they're scrolling, bombasticness and that exuberance, it gets people to, someone's loud.
Which is fair.
I'm not saying it's not.
Okay.
I'm just saying that
you made it sound like a complaint, and I was about to punch you in the face.
Which is why
I love Danish Seth.
Which is
Danish, I love you, bro.
Which is why I gave that disclaimer. For me, Jose is someone who is very understated. So he's not really trying to sell himself that much from the get-go. His sales point is coming at the punch. Danish is selling from second one, bro. And it's aggressive selling. It is in your face.
Right.
Jose is exactly opposite of that. He's not in your face. But he is more laid back. He is, I guess, maybe more confident.
Come on. Now you're judging them. You can't do that.
I mean, yeah, this is all unfair.
It also takes confidence to be on your face from second one.
It does.
So, I don't think I think it's just a matter of style.
It also takes an empty head to make more noise. It's very unfair. I was just kidding. I'm kidding, guys.
You saw my silence. Did you feel the threat in my silence?
Brute was offended on behalf of Danish Seth.
Yeah.
Right he was going to attack me.
Absolutely, dude. That's so unfair. You can use that on toppers.
I'm kidding. That was just a joke. I don't really mean that. Kind of.
But going back to the point, I think that is how we if we have to really go back to the pinnacle of, our cultural humor. Right. I think it is imperative that we all go back to what, go back to the content where humor was, or literature. Content is a wrong word in this day and age.
Please don't say content.
Yeah, it's literature, guys. Respect our elders. The literature which actually kind of glorified the humorous, aspects of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think once we go through that, I don't know how many of us go through that, to be honest, including ourselves.
Wait, can you clarify? Go through what exactly?
I mean, how many times have you gone back and read stuff of, Hasya Kavis or try to understand what was humor in India like back in the day. Because Western, I'm giving you a comparative analysis, right? I'll draw an analogy. Can I draw an analogy?
It's your podcast, bro.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's like that saying that why does Pakistan produce more fast bowlers? Because they have a lot of reference for them. They have people to look up to. They have a Imran Khan, they have a Wasim Akram, they have a Waqar Yunus.
Right.
And they all grow up looking at these fast bowlers. They want to become fast bowlers.
You also got to run away from something that's exploding.
That is that too. So their natural talent is kind of helping them become a fast bowler.
Exactly.
Whereas in India, everybody wants to become a Sachin, or everybody wants to become a batsman, right? And yes, the trend is changing. Yes, a lot of things. But primarily, it is if you know something, if you know that your previous generation has done something, it automatically becomes a point of reference. Now, imagine the current cricketers don't know about Sachin or don't know about the whole history of Indian batsmen is removed.
Right.
Right? What will happen?
Wait, is there something replacing that? Is there a history of bowlers replacing that?
We don't know. We don't know what is replacing. Say if a bunch of fielders are being replaced. We are only talking about...
Then we are South Africa.
Correct?
Yeah.
So what happened is the same thing that happened with us in humor. When our literature was started being replaced by the Western literature or the P.G. Woodhouses, the Woody Allens, movies of the West, the Jim Carreys became more popular. What do you say? The second or third generation. They're not even the prime generation. These were the second or third generation of the Western guys who started replacing our literature. Then we thought, we don't even have like a history of funny things.
I have an example for what you just said.
Great, go ahead.
I'm physically...
But never point at me. The way you just did it, you pointed at me as if I was telling something wrong.
No. Something that I could relate to. I'm still physically scarred by Hrithik Roshan trying to imitate Jim Carrey in Yadein. I mean, I'm physically scarred by Yadein for many other reasons. Like many other people. I was
just about to ask you that. That's it? That's all that is
No.
there?
This was one of the things that I was scarred by.
Okay.
Which is exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that we don't have... Johnny Lever is our Jim Carrey. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
Johnny Lever is the kind of roles that Johnny Lever did are amazing, dude. I mean, everything. His stand-ups are crazy. His characterization is crazy. He's a complete package, right?
And we have our own legend of legends in Telugu cinema. That is Brahmanandam.
Kota. Oh, come on.
Okay, Kota is also a legend.
I think Kota is the bigger...
I won't say bigger.
Genius.
I won't say bigger.
For me, Kota is bigger, dude.
Brahmanandam is the peak.
Guys, for all you people who do not know Telugu movie history, Brahmanandam is the memes who you're seeing nowadays. And Kota Srinivas Rao is the guy who if you watch the movie Sarkar, he is the guy who's...
The evil politician.
Yeah, the evil politician who says like Operation South style Pura North.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is Kota. He's a fantastic actor and is very humorous. He's one of the sought after actors. He was... Paresh Rawal copies Kota. Let me put it that way. The Hera Fairy role of Paresh Rawal, that was adopted from a character that Kota did in one of the Telugu movies long back.
As funny as he can be completely villainous. And when he's funny, he's the most charming guy. You want to just give him a hug. And when he's a villain, you don't want to be anywhere around this guy. That good.
Yeah. But we are digressing. We're going into a different topic altogether. Bogus, thanks to you.
Yeah, so coming back. A lot of my observation was that a lot of this seems to be very wisdom-based, the humor, when it is old. And very rarely or much later in chronology, when it comes to kings and court jesters or hasya kavis, like you said.
Yeah.
You have a different kind of humor, which is more wit, more clever, more situational.
Yeah. And poetry, very similar to humor, has categories, right? There is a Vikata Kavi, there is a Hasya Kavi, there is something else. Vikata Kavi is more like this satirical poetry.
Yeah, Tenali Ramakrishna, who was one of the 8 poets in the court of
Sri Krishna Devaraya
of the Vijayanagara dynasty or the empire, he was known as the Vikata Kavi. And in Telugu, it is actually a palindrome. Vikata Kavi. You know,
What's a palindrome?
palindrome is which starts and ends the same way, like Madam, I'm Adam.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this guy, he used to be well known, really well known for his wit throughout, and he was a close counsel of the king during his time. He's a legendary figure in our mythology, actually.
Yeah, for people who want to, who do not have the access or who do not understand Telugu poetry or the language, you can refer to Birbal. Akbar Birbal is, there's a whole school of thought that Akbar Birbal was derived from Tenali Ramakrishna's stories.
The relation between Tenali Ramakrishna and
Sri Krishna
Sri Krishna Devaraya.
So, but who cares, right?
Yeah.
Even if it is an adaptation or a replication, doesn't matter. But you will definitely understand the wittiness that we as a culture had, which was which was such an integral part of our culture, right? Which I think we lost it. World over, everybody is losing it, but I only care about India.
Yeah, as you can see, the degradation that's been common across countries or civilizations. In the 70s or the 60s, we had the best of music. We had the best of film.
Singers,
And
composers, you name it.
all of a sudden, we saw the death of rock and roll. And we saw quality dropping everywhere. The pop stars of today,
Right.
they're singing, they're happy because it's a Friday.
Yeah.
You know,
There is no intellectual value addition.
yeah, and the so-called funny scenes in movies where people are exaggeratingly acting as jackasses, and that is supposed to make us laugh, as opposed to something actually fun.
I would choose to put it in a different way. I don't want to sound diplomatic,
Okay.
but it's done in poor taste. That's what I have to say. For me, humor also has to, poke a little about onto my intelligence.
I was going to say exactly that, which is taste plays a big role
Right.
in humor, and that taste aspect is what seems lacking more often.
It shows a lot of lacklusterness in writing,
Oh yeah,
right? I mean, you wouldn't want. It's like going to a good play. Like you want to experience certain genuineness about the writing or the play, right? So the same thing is what I observe, that there is a certain lacklusterness in it. There's a certain amount of carefreeness which doesn't get the due respect types.
right.
So that is my issue with the contemporary comedy. But having said that, where it comes from is a whole different question. Where is that lacklusterness coming from?
A general diversion from detail. How many of us are digging deep into things? For example, in Japan, they have reality shows based on this concept where people invent some simple thing
Right.
for a very simple use, and they come to TV shows and they show it off, and when it gets selected or they win, or even if they don't win, if it's popular enough, they build a business out of it. How many of us are going into detail like that in our own walks of life? You look at the city planning or the lack of it, and you can see we live in a concrete jungle. There's no lung spaces, there's no water spaces. And you look at manufacturing, we're not exactly spoken about in along with Germans or the Japanese when it comes to manufacturing, even though there was a point where Indian workmanship was so famous that they could fit a silk dress in a matchbox.
Yeah.
There have been legends.
What is that shawl called?
I forgot what it's called, but I thought it was silk.
Pashmina.
No, I don't think it was pashmina. I think it was silk.
Okay.
Like pure silk, which could be folded
into a box. Oh, yeah.
into a small matchbox.
Yeah. And there is the same thing is with shawls. There is a pashmini shawl or something,
Pashmina.
which goes through a ring. It's so delicate. And
Right.
So soft that it can just go through a very small ring.
Yeah,
And that's how they test it also.
Talk about architecture.
Architecture, yeah.
The standards of architecture we built. We have a temple with hanging pillars, dude.
Right.
I mean, they slide papers under it. How is this temple?
And the symmetry, dude.
The symmetry.
The symmetry of
Sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry, right?
Yeah.
But okay, I think we're digressing into too many things. But primarily, I think this is how I relate to a lot of things. Humor opens doors.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? It helps you accept people.
Because trust opens doors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Love opens doors.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can just give it many names. But for the sake of the conversation, if you are open to humor without bias, without judgment, without prejudice, right? I think it opens a lot of doors, which ultimately builds unity.
All the things that we cannot get together and talk about freely.
Yeah. Humor allows you to do that.
Humor is the only thing that allows you to.
Absolutely true.
Go through
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Right? Why do we need friends? Basically because they can make fun of our problems.
Yeah.
And that's why if you are having a bad day, you would crave for these guys, right?
Yeah, you're not looking to talk to your uncle.
Yeah, you don't want to go to your neighboring uncle who gives you unnecessary advice and say like, "Ye mera problem hai, ek joke bata ke dikhao."
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's why it is so important that we address the point of how we are going away from the raw form of humor.
Which brings me to the next question, which is in an earlier episode,
Yeah.
we discussed that the Western way of thought is more of dissection and more materialistic.
Yeah.
Whereas the Eastern way of thought has been there's more of an acceptance of the things unknown in the East. There's
Yeah.
a way of explaining it away,
Correct.
or understanding it, or letting that sink in.
Correct.
Whereas in the Western, this thing, they almost look like they hit a brick wall
Correct.
when
Yeah.
they come to such topics like rebirth, like what happens after death, all these kinds of things. So how do you think that influences humor in the West versus in the East?
So it's a tough question, dude. Like, I mean, if this was in my exam, I would have skipped this question.
I would have just written a story about me going to watch a movie and fill the answer sheet,
That I would have done anyways.
Yeah.
How do you think I passed my engineering?
Exactly.
Thanks for all the Spider-Man movies and all.
Mm-hmm.
But you put me in a fix now.
Because I myself don't
Can
have
you repeat the question once again?
The question is, we do know that there is a distinction between the Western way of thought and the Eastern way of thought. Now, if the culture is what influences humor, then where is the difference in the humor? Where is the difference in humor of the East and the West that shows this being manifested, this distinction being manifested?
Okay, so I again go back to the point where we are disconnected to our own culture. Correct? I feel, see, for example, let's take our own example.
Okay.
Right? Who, according to us, is like the pinnacle of humor?
You mean stand-up comedy or humor?
No, humor. Somebody who makes us laugh like, wow, that's so funny. How smart is that?
Okay, how smart is that for me? Well, yeah, so we all have our own.
Yeah, for
examples.
us, for example, okay, fine. Well, I'll spill it out, dude, for the fucking useless you are.
For you, it's
Monty Python.
right.
Like, when we look at Monty Python, we are like, dude, this is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, how did these guys even come up with some shit like this? I mean, it's so out there and we didn't see it, but they saw it types.
Monty Python, George Carlin, Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, Blackadder. I mean, you know, everybody and anybody you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
How many of such people can you name from our own background or our own culture who came up with who intended to come up with such humorous stuff? I can only think of Johnny Lever, who manifested humor.
Okay.
Who dedicated himself to humor, right? And it's not just one format.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is funny everywhere. You put him in a stand-up, he's funny.
Mm-hmm.
You put him in a stage, he's funny.
Mm-hmm.
You put him in a play, he's funny. His movie, he's funny. Anywhere you put him, he's just funny. He's like For me, he's this raw force of humor, right?
Yeah.
So how many of such references do we have?
Well-
Our generation hardly has any reference.
Yeah. When you say our generation, yes, we
Yeah,
don't.
it is our generation.
But
Or take 3 generations above us.
I would say Jaspal Bhatti is a name which comes up because you said smart.
Correct.
Smart humor,
See, Jaspal Bhatti was satirical, by the way.
which is very smart.
Yeah, he's
And-
one of the intelligent guys.
Yeah. And but going back before that,
But
it's again
my question
the
is-
wisdom based.
Right. My question is, do you base your humor according to Jaspal Bhatti?
No.
I think that's where the gap is. I feel the gap is that we do not respect our own backgrounds, right? Our own references. Or probably we devalue, overshadow our references, and we are more we are more excited about, let's see what Dave Chappelle's new show is. Let's see what Kevin Hart's new show is about. Let's see who's the funniest writer. Who is the funniest actor in Hollywood?
Ghar ki murgi dal barabar, as they say.
Exactly. That's the simplest way you can put it.
Which is also a funny proverb in Hindi.
Yeah. And in Telugu, even in Hindi it is there. It's to do with I godlo pillan pettukoni uranta vetkinanta.
Oh, okay. Can you translate that?
I can't. I don't know. I suddenly blacked out. I don't. What is it done in? What's it in Hindi?
So let's translate in English.
बगल में बच्चा शहर में ढिंडोरा. Something like that.
Okay. So what that means is, what that translates to is, this guy had his kid in his lap the whole time,
But he's searching everywhere else.
but he kept searching everywhere else. Yeah.
So I think that's where is the gap. The gap is, you see people talking about, Bill Burr told this joke, or Louis C.K. told this joke. How many of you know how many cool jokes that Johnny Lever told?
Yeah.
Like, check easy math, right? Go to YouTube, pick up Johnny Lever's stand-up, and you have them, by the way, and check how many views he got.
Right.
I don't see any.
Yeah.
Right? Go to Qadir Ali Beg, for example, another very, absolutely hilarious, play writer and stuff.
Yeah.
How many views did he get? I mean, yes, he's from Pakistan now, but his roots are the same culture that we came up from. His humor comes from a similar culture, the comedy of errors, the language he uses, the kind of setup he uses and all.
But he is from Pakistan now, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter for me.
Well, there you go.
See, I go by the merit. I'm not looking at all these
I'm
things.
kidding. Yeah, of course.
Don't kid with me on such important, serious topics, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because I'll punch you again. You want to be punched? Already have one black eye. But
So-
yeah, that's what I would say.
We still don't have an answer to that question, which is, if there is a known difference between the way the Western thought process goes and the Eastern thought process goes, where is that manifesting in the humor that comes out of these regions? If you guys have any suggestions or any inputs to provide in that regard, go
Or
ahead.
theories or
Or
hypotheses.
theories or hypotheses. Just,
Make it smart. Give us a presentation.
yeah, we're going to judge you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments, wherever you can reach us, our socials.
Yeah. No, comments.
But by default, a very basic question, bro,
Okay.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think laughter comes from?
Okay, that's a good question. Like one of my very close friends said, it comes from the stomach.
Wow. You're going to use my own line against me.
Yeah. How does it sound, bro? Your own medicine. Where does laughter come from? From the heavens, dude. It comes from a pure place.
Mhm.
It comes from a place of... I think laughter is basically a physical representation of trust. That's how I would put it. I know it's very close to the whole concept of how humor works, but I think it's just a physical representation of trust. The highest form of trust. It's the simple example I can give is, there are few people who you'll meet in life who you don't like immediately.
Okay.
Right? You have this instinctive hatred towards them, saying that, dude, I don't buy this guy. I don't get the right
about
vibe.
this guy.
Yeah, there's something about this guy which I feel like punching his face, right?
Yeah.
Like punch him in the throat.
Yeah.
And then he becomes this funny guy, right? You get to know that he's this funny guy, but you don't laugh for him.
Right.
You kind of buy your time. You're like, I mean, he's cracking this joke because there's some intention behind it, or he
Right.
justify it with some ridiculous things, right?
Right.
So that's how I think, and that's my whole that's my whole approach to humor. Also, is if somebody laughs for you, right, then you respect them for the fact that they trust you,
Okay.
and you live by that respect, and you reciprocate that respect by trusting them. So for me, laughter is just a physical representation of trust.
Trust.
Yeah, you don't know I don't know any other way how we can do it. So
So you say trust, I say from the stomach.
yeah,
Both are true. Technically.
absolutely. Yeah, it's
What a journey. What a journey it has been.
Yeah.
Part 1, Part 2. An exploration into humor itself and what role it plays in our lives.
not just lives. I think
In
what
our
a role
deaths.
it plays in the society.
But yeah, of course.
Yeah. What was your answer?
In our deaths. If it's not in our lives, then what?
It's afterlives.
Afterlife. What do
Yeah.
you find funny after you're dead? Part 3.
Part 3. Part 3 is coming, guys.
Yeah. Great. So on to our parcel section for this episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
As always, Brute, I would want you to go first and I will follow.
Okay. What am I parceling? No, I forgot.
This is it, guys. This is the dedication. Naked Gun.
Oh yeah,
Talking
Leslie
about Naked
Nielsen.
Gun.
Leslie Nielsen. Guys, so taking it from the top, parcel section and Being Brute's personal recommendation to all of you, and make sure you do not miss this recommendation, because I will bet Bogus Noog's fake hair that if you don't find it funny, we are going to burn his fake hair. So my parcel for today's episode is Naked Gun. There's a 3-part trilogy of Naked Gun. There is Naked Gun, Files from the Police Academy, then Naked Gun 2.5, and then there is Naked Gun 33 1/3. And it's a movie. I mean, the premise of the movie is very simple. And Bogus, you can pitch in. Okay. So the premise of the movie is about this incompetent cop who is trying to save the day, right? And the whole movie is exaggerated. It is slapstick. You will find all comedy types or all types of humor in this movie, because it's one of the funniest movies I have ever watched. It's
Yeah.
my personal favorite.
At the very base, it is a parody of those serious cop movies that follow that certain format where the cop is the hero and,
Yeah.
saves the day,
Yeah. It's an action comedy.
saves the damn. It's an action comedy. There's a lot of action in it. And
Yeah.
the cop is actually a bumbling fool. That
Absolute
just keeps,
nincompoop.
Yeah, but that's what makes it so funny, because he never reacts to any of the craziness around
Right.
him.
Right.
And Leslie Nielsen, who plays the cop, is
Legend in himself.
one of the geniuses of deadpan humor.
Right.
Like, the way he plays it straight is so hard to do, but it's so entertaining.
Though, is the funny thing, Bogus. Deadpan humor is predominantly associated with British comedy.
Yeah.
And this guy is an American.
Uh-huh.
And he kills it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any actor from the West or anywhere else, in fact, who has that command on deadpan humor. I mean, how can you not break, right? You would want to see him slip at some point, but he's just so good at it,
Yeah.
right? Like, he is amazing. And the beauty of the movies are, there is a genuine premise. There's a genuine problem out there. Like, the queen is being killed,
Yeah.
or some big shot is about to be murdered, and this guy, how he approaches, and he's genuine about it, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's earnestly putting all the efforts to like solve the case.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that he showcases this idioticness all through consistently.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think, guys, you guys have to check it out. Naked Gun trilogy. Leslie Nielsen is the lead hero in it, and you'll love it. Trust me. Bogus, shoot.
For my parcel section with 2 extra sambar packets today, we have Airplane, which is another favorite of both Brute and myself.
Absolutely.
And guess what? Airplane also has Leslie Nielsen, but as a supporting role.
You don't say.
Yeah. And Airplane is basically exact scene-to-scene remake of a 1950s movie called Panic Hour. And Panic Hour, the plot of that was basically a plane goes up into the sky, some complication, pilots are incapacitated. Oh no, how do we land the plane? Ultimately, the plane is landed. It's a very serious movie that was treated very seriously. But Airplane copies that movie scene by scene and makes it so hilarious.
Yeah.
And like Naked Gun, Airplane actually came before Naked Gun.
Way before.
So
I think Airplane was Leslie Nielsen's breakthrough performance as a comic actor.
Yeah. And it is again absurd humor and slapstick and
exaggeration, parody.
A lot of exaggeration and parody. And it follows this fighter jet pilot, the hero, who is now a taxi driver.
Yeah.
And he has anxiety attacks because of his PTSD from the war. And he also has a very serious drinking problem.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
This is not
drinking problem is...
Brute, this is no laughing matter, okay? Alcoholism is a very serious thing.
I
basically,
apologize.
the hero's drinking problem was that whenever he brings a glass to his face,
he can't put it to his mouth.
He can't put it to his mouth. He lands it on his forehead and ends up spilling all the liquid on his face. So basically, that's his drinking problem.
He just can't drink.
Yeah, just with that example, you can figure out what kind of a movie this is.
Yeah. And the obviousness.
Yeah.
The beauty is in the dialogue writing, guys. The obviousness of the dialogue writing.
Yeah.
Is so ridiculous.
For example,
can we enact one scene?
I mean, in the air traffic control room, they suddenly say, "Oh no!" when the plane is completely in trouble, right? Oh no! It looks like the shit has hit the fan.
Yeah.
In the next scene, you see a table fan.
Yeah.
And something disgusting like
thrown at it.
Like patch, it hits the fan. Like it's so. Sometimes it's so literal. It's so funny.
The best line, I don't know. I think it's okay if we reveal it, right? No?
I think we can.
Yeah. It's like, so basically there are a bunch of sick people on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie Nielsen is the doctor on the plane.
Yeah, he's the doctor.
So, and he checks these sick people and goes to the air hostess and I think we need to turn back and land. These guys need a hospital immediately.
Yeah.
They need to be admitted in the hospital immediately.
Yeah.
And this is all serious, right? And the air hostess is like, a hospital? But why? And then Leslie Nielsen is like, it's a big building with people with patients in it. But that's not the point.
That's not the point right now. These people need medical help.
Yeah.
And there's another line where the pilot, the hero, tells Leslie Nielsen, "Surely you must be joking."
Yeah.
It's like, "No, I'm not joking." And
don't call me Shirley.
Don't call me Shirley. Yeah.
It's a rawest form, guys. Again,
there
I
are
think
so many quotable quotes.
Yeah,
there are so many bits.
It is a cult movie.
Yeah.
Which opened doors to so many other people to make such movies.
Yeah.
But this will be remembered as one of the funniest movies in the history of Hollywood, undoubtedly.
Oh yeah, when it came out, it was made with a budget of like $3.5 million or something. It ended up making 150.
And do you know who are the stars in it? The Mission Impossible guy was the main pilot who always did this really serious
The TV
role.
show.
The TV show Mission
Impossible guy, yeah.
Yeah, so that guy was the main pilot.
Then
and
there
then Abdul Jabbar was there.
Kareem Abdul Jabbar.
Yeah,
the basketball star.
And by the way, Naked Gun also has some really interesting cast. There's O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson in the house without a knife this time.
Yeah.
And the glove.
So that's, I think, a wrap.
That's a wrap on our 2-part humor special bonus extravaganza. ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
And share, guys. Just share. Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow this podcast on Spotify to get notified of new episodes every Thursday. We're also on Apple Podcasts for those of you who have partaken in the forbidden fruit. If you liked what you heard, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Say anything like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. A rating and a comment really helps us out. It's free, and I'm told that's a great price. But enough about us, huh? Tell us about yourself. Leave us a comment. Our Twitter is @ThyGap and we are _ThyGap on Instagram.